The boy who believed he was a werewolf. Stay tuned to find out what happens.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Lenox Justifier of Innocence, created by Zeus and Demeter to save humanity. I am here as the character Josephine, which is Lenox in human form, and with me is Mr. Buddy the guard dog. He was sent by the ultimate creator to watch over Lenox. Now, today's series, we are going to be continuing on with the series on the rise of cannibalism. So we are going to the second case. So before we start, I did just want to say thank you to those of you who are returning. And for those of you who are new, welcome. For those of you who are new, this is a fantasy justice channel where superheroes and mythological gods unite in the fight to save humanity. This channel is designed so that you can listen to it like an audiobook, or you can watch and enjoy the images, the dramatizations, and the artwork like a picture book. A lot of the topics that we cover are based on true stories, and some of the topics are sensitive in nature. So I did want to forewarn you on that in case you are triggered. Though we do try to cover everything with a positive outcome, being that this is a fantasy justice channel, it is important for me to disclose that so that you are aware. All of the justice is carried out in fantasy, imagination, and the characters are based on some Greek mythology and some mutants that join forces, and they get justice for ongoing cases that are out there that have not received justice in the opinion of the victims. We do change the names of the perpetrators and the victims in order to protect their identities. And I don't know if you guys caught that on camera, but we have a little visitor in here today, Miss Peanut. So she just went running across. I don't know if the camera caught it or not, but if you see a cute little tortoiseshell cat run by, that is Miss Peanut. She is one of the stars in Mr. Buddy and Friends. That's my boy here, his show. So she might, join us for a little bit and just make a little guest appearance over here. So we are going to get started on today's program. We are going to be covering some sensitive topics. This particular topic did happen here in Florida, and it's pretty recent as far as the outcome of the case. The original incident happened back in 2016, I believe. But it's not 2016, 2019, I believe, but I'd have to double check the dates. But the outcome was decided in November, and therefore not a lot of people are happy about it. So we're going to go through that, and just remember that this is a fantasy. It's based on speculation, opinion, and a lot of the facts that are out there now online that you can look up yourself. So with that said, let's get started. Before we start, I did just want to give a disclaimer that these topics that we will be covering today are based on mental illness, and this is in no way, shape, or form any type of diagnosis. It is merely speculation, opinion, formed from very public information out there, mixed in with fantasy. So just wanted to make that disclosure. Enjoy the show. Amalia went to speak with Lenox. Lenox, this next case is a bit more complex. Oh? How so? At the time of the murders and cannibalistic acts, the perp was only 19 years old. Okay, so old enough to know better, but not fully matured. What exactly did he do? Well, the day of the tragedy, the perp was out with his family for dinner. They, being his family, stated that he seemed agitated, but it wasn't untypical for an older teenage boy. He got up from the table, and they all assumed he was going to the restroom, but then he went on foot until he arrived at his mother's house, and she claimed that he was acting strange. But nevertheless, she ended up driving him back to the restaurant. At that point, the father was annoyed, and so he exacerbated the situation by aggressively confronting him. He then ran off and made his way to the victim's home, where he fatally stabbed a couple in their 50s and injured a neighbor who tried to intervene. He then chewed the face off the husband, and that's how the police found him. He was gnawing on the husband's face. He used a knife, scissors, and a wine opener to inflict the fatal wounds that took the lives of his victims. The attack was completely unprovoked. Wow. How awful. How awful for the victims. I can only imagine the fear and confusion they felt in those last moments. Oh, I know. And the family learning that how they were taken from them, it's tragic all around. And what's worse is he was found not guilty by means of insanity. Well, with the exception of financial crimes, all perps who commit heinous acts and taking lives of other living beings for kicks all have some form of insanity. That is not a justification for their evil acts. If that's the case, then all of them would be roaming the streets free to continue harming innocent people. That is true. And some of the news outlets have reported that he could be free in as little as 6 months with treatment. Lenox was shaking her head. That's not right. So what exactly led up to this, Amalia? What was his diagnosis? Before we can deliver true justice, we must first look at what led up to it and what the diagnosis is. We need to take a look at the legal recourse that the surviving family can take. And I don't mean lawsuits. This man cannot take innocent lives of 2 people, attempt the unlifing of a third, eat the face of the male victim, and then be set free to roam about simply because he wasn't mentally well in the moment of the crime. That is a risk to public safety. What was that judge thinking? I don't know, Lenox. It's a shocking judgment, that's for sure. It's reckless, in my opinion, Amalia. Reckless. Amalia went to dig into the details of the case, the perp's life prior to the incident, and after some digging, Amalia found that during the perp's freshman year of college, he began to act differently. They later discovered a journal where he had wrote down some disturbing thoughts that he was having. The family had agreed to get him some help, assuming that drugs was causing the fluctuating in his personality. The perp was evaluated for drugs after the murders. However, all that they were able to find was traces of marijuana. He was later diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and it was determined that at the time of the tragedy, he suffered from acute psychosis episode, which is a period of delusion, hallucinations, disorganized thoughts and speech, and reduced motivation. Though they did not find designer drugs in his system, the investigation uncovered text messages for months and days prior to the incident. One, in particular, indicated that he had magic mushrooms in his possession. Some reports say that he was suffering from a condition that made him believe that he was a werewolf. Give me a break. I am so sick of this self-victimizing society. No one wants to take accountability for their actions, creating diagnoses to further justify and excuse immoral, bad behavior and dumb choices. I'm sick of this shit. If he had been suffering from bipolar disorder, then consuming those drugs would have compounded the problem. However, parents also need to stop coddling and be parents. Pay attention to your children. You are not their friend. You are their leader. Teach them about proper coping skills so that they don't fall apart when they get out in the real world and cry, "Oh, woe is me," every time something doesn't go their way, and then turn to substances and commit horrible crimes and then play the mental illness card. No. And if they are truly exhibiting signs of mental illness, why delay getting help? Get them the help they need. There is no shame in getting help. Stop living in denial and act. Magic shrooms contain a chemical substance that causes hallucinations. It is undetectable in the body after 24 hours of consumption, and it can be out of the system even faster in young adults with well-functioning metabolisms. But with that said, that lasting effect of the chemical in the brain, that can alter the brain chemistry. And so even though it's not detected at the time of the blood work or urine analysis, it doesn't mean that it did not do a number on his brain. And then along with marijuana or whatever you want to call it, also being a mild hallucinogen, which many people don't realize, it too alters the brain chemistry. When you layer those two things on top of an already struggling young mind, what do you think is going to happen? It doesn't take a brain expert to make a determination of the detrimental effects that these drugs have on an underdeveloped human brain. A person's brain is not fully developed until at least age 23, and some say even later for men. So what do you think those drugs, in addition to his mental condition, would cause? There are so many bipolar people out there, and they don't murder or eat people's faces. What is worse is that so many healthy people are consuming these drugs under the false narrative of their natural abilities to heal. Oh, it's harmless. It's good for you. It's all a bunch of bull. There are parts of the plant that have some medicinal properties. Yes, that is true. But that is not why people are consuming them. For most of them, for the majority, it's an excuse to escape the difficulties of life instead of dealing with it head on. Carajo! I couldn't agree more on Lenox. I found where he is going for treatment. Okay, send me the details on that. I shall head there tonight. Oh, and one more question. Amalia looked up at Lenox. Has he shown signs of remorse? That I cannot confirm, Lenox. I can only go by these statements, and according to the statement made by the victim's son, he claims that the only thing that the perp appeared to be sad about was the prospect of going to prison. The surviving victim also stated that he said that during the attack, when he went to intervene, he looked up at him and said, "You don't want none of this," or something to that effect, when he attempted to help. Lenox had a complete look of disgust on her face. He will get the medical treatment that he needs, Amalia. Absolutely. No question about that. But he shall also pay for his crimes. This is so upsetting on all levels. It's a complete injustice. Was this boy really sick? Or was it drug-induced? I believe it is a combination of both. But irregardless, there needs to be accountability for his actions. After the perp is well enough physically, he needs to be held accountable. This is a very slippery slope for society. This is not good. This judgment has opened the gateway for other criminals to use this line of defense in order to get off on their crimes. We can't allow this to happen. There needs to be an example set, and there needs to be a minimum standard set for these types of perps. I do believe some have mental illness, but some use it as an excuse. And regardless of mental illness or not, there needs to be accountability. Like I said before, there needs to be something put in place to ensure that these people are not let out to roam free, to re-offend. What do you propose we do, Lenox? Well, when I get back from dealing with Mr. Werewolf, we need to get in contact with our friends from the mental health community, along with our friends that are in law enforcement and those who are involved with writing laws and coming up with the different rules for prosecuting these type of crimes, so that we can find some kind of common ground, find something that is somewhat in the middle, where they can get the treatment, not have to live their life in a mental hospital the whole time, but maybe, or in general prison, because they don't really, if they're truly mentally ill, they don't really belong in a regular general prison. So we need to come up with a separate place to house these particular type of criminals, so that they're not loose and they can still receive their treatment, but still have to pay for their crimes. Okay, I'll work on looking into what we can do about that and trying to come up with a solution, so that when we do meet with them, we have a plan in place and we can make recommendations, and then that would be our starting point. But that's a great idea, Lenox. I'm going to prepare to go to where they're keeping him, and in the meantime, let's keep digging and find more information. I just want to be clear on everything before we proceed. Okay, I'm on it. So that concludes the first half of this series, titled The Boy Who Thought He Was a Werewolf. So we are going to continue the second half, when we're going to dive into a little bit more about the perpetrator's life, and just to get a better understanding of where he was at mentally, and try to come up with solutions, or ideas that we can put forward to help everyone out there. If they ever, have anyone in their life that they care for, or anyone in their circle that they notice these types of behaviors, or try to figure out what the common denominator is between the cases that we have covered, so that we can try to prevent these type of tragedies from happening, or try to understand and recognize the warning signs earlier, so that we can try to prevent these tragedies. So that is what we're going to be looking at the next part of the series. We're going to go through the discovery of who the person was, and the fantasy justice portion of it, and see how the outcome is, as well as the discussion. So the next video that we will post will be Mr. Buddy's video, so you'll have that to look forward to. Those are very light subjects, very funny, just carefree. It's fun for adults, kids, anybody to watch. There's always new music, so you have that to look forward to. We're getting really good over here with the AI, using AI to help us write the music. So it's been a lot of fun. And even in this video, I used a lot of I use some of the AI apps that I used in order to create the sounds and the background music. So that way we don't ever have to like run into any copyright issues, and they're fun, and you can actually tailor it. If you guys ever want to know a little bit about how you can create some of that music for yourselves, if you're creators out there, or just for, you know, listening pleasure, feel free to comment below or email me, and I will direct you to the site that I use primarily to help me with that. As far as the lyrics, that's just something that I come up with on my own, you know, with his music, and depends on the episode that we're doing. So I relate it to whatever the episode is about. So you'll have that to look forward to next. I hope that you guys are having an amazing Sunday evening. I hope you are staying warm. It is kind of chilly here too in Florida. So everybody stay warm, stay safe. As always, please take care of yourselves, take care of your kids, and God bless. Thank you so much for watching.